have to ask you, do you think in terms of the contagion effects that we've seen in the Chinese property sector, have we seen the worst of it? Or is now there a sense that this could actually spiral out of control?
Yes, we are actually still seeing the market pretty challenging in the next 6 to 12 months period because the sales remain weak and the bond price has been coming down as well, actually making the Chinese developers refinancing access a bit constrained. So that also increased the refinancing risk. And in terms of the sales, although we see the government has tried to implement some measure or easing some policies to stabilize the sales, but still we have seen national sales or property developer sales declining. So indicating that there is still more downside uncertainties in terms of the operations. And hence we also translated to some funding uncertainties and risks.
Yeah, and if other agencies can actually downgrade names like Country Garden to junk, I have to wonder how much transparency is there in the sector right now for you, Kaven? And how do you even begin? What metrics do you look at to value these companies now?
We monitor the market in different areas, including the national sales data, how the overall market is performing. And definitely, we also look at individual companies' financial positions, including their revenue, contractor sales, and also some key credit metrics. And most importantly right now is definitely we will look at their liquidity position in terms of the cash position, their short-term debt, refinancing needs. All these key metrics are still available actually from the audited financials and also company announcements, so that we can still have information to assess these credits.
Kaven, David here. Do you think these projects are eventually going to get completed, all of them?
This is something we still need to monitor for unfinished projects, although this is definitely a recent problem that we have seen in the China property sectors. Government has also tried to come up some measures to support these unfinished projects. But having said that, the government funding to support these projects in terms of scale remain uncertain. But we believe that the government will still be selective in supporting these projects, and those is more viable that will be selected. And while there's more stress that they will be put on a later stage, and that. And in the near term, we do not really expect that all these projects can be supported.
In terms then of the financing options for many of these companies, what mainly do you think that's going to be? Because it doesn't seem the offshore market is a viable alternative. Is it the onshore market? Is it banks? What alternatives are they looking at here?
We still see most of the greater developers can still have the access to onshore bank financing, mostly for their project developments. Some quality names, we also see that they are able to access the onshore bond markets. As recently, you can see some high quality names that they issue the onshore bonds. Offshore bond definitely is very difficult for them. And other than these kind of funding channels, we also see some Chinese developers trying to dispose of their assets to raise funds to meet their operating needs as well as to meet their refinancing needs.
Kaven, when do you expect to see a peak in defaults then in the property sector now?
It is very difficult to accurately determine the timing at the peak. But however, we still forecasting that more companies will default in the next 6 to 12 months periods, considering that many of the developers' liquidity remain quite weak, particularly those actually rated at a very low level, talking about B3 or below. And they have weak operation, weak liquidity. At the same time, they also have high refinancing needs. And with now very sound access to funding to get the refinancing, these companies will still seeing refinancing risks, and therefore we will expect that more this type of companies will default.
Kaven, just on the extent of the recovery, is there an oversupply, a structural issue in the property sector?
And I would say the supply situation is very dependent on the location. In different regions, there will be having a different supply-demand dynamic based on Moody's understanding about the situation. The oversupply situation or supply concern is more in the low-tier cities, particularly in some regions that is less developed, including Northeast region and also Southwest region. The problems will be more serious there.